Hey everyone, so in this video, I want to talk about your soul's purpose, right? Or your soul's mission. And quite simply, it's all wrapped up in your fears. I mean, your fears are your soul's purpose. Now, what does that mean? That means that what you've come here to do, to overcome, to accomplish, to face, whatever, is all based and outlined in where your fear is most intense. Now, let's go back for a second, right? Because there are two levels of fears here, and one is more significant than the other. There are internal fears and there are external fears. External fears are, I'm afraid of cockroaches, I'm afraid of heights, I'm afraid of public speaking, those kind of things. Internal fears are fears of unworthiness, right? Fear of missing out, fear of lack, fear of, not being smart enough, or, stuff like that. Stuff that's almost subconscious in some cases. Some of these things you might be aware of on the surface. They might be things that you can diagnose in yourself, especially if you've kind of opened your eyes to these things as being fears. But a lot of those types of fears can go under the surface and can infect other areas of your life in an unseen way. The external fears are a little bit more easily diagnosed, but are also symptoms of other things. What it all means, though, is that if you want to figure out what your purpose is in life, it's not a matter of what you do with your career or what you choose to do in terms of helping others. I mean, all that stuff is great. And all that stuff is part of your journey and are noble things to take part of. But they aren't your soul's purpose. So you're going to have to figure out what freaks you out, right? What has you feeling scared of a social situation? Or what has you feeling scared of, putting your work out there? Or, speaking up in a crowd, or in facing, some of the family things that are unspoken that you feel like, are kind of brushed under the rug or whatever. Like, it's so personal that nobody really can tell you what those are. They can tell you what common fears there are in human life, because they do run the gamut of things that intertwine with all of us. Right? We all have common fears, but what your fears are may not be the same as what my fears are. And it's not even they are not the same as what my fears are. So, number one, you're not going to find a tarot video or a YouTube video in general that's going to tell you what your fear is. Be wary of anyone in the outside telling you what your fear is, unless they're helping you diagnose it yourself. And number two, it's all about soul searching. But it's not even as deep as that. What past occurrences in your life are repeating patterns, right? What are things that you continually come up against that are testing you? That's a good way of looking at or recognizing the things that you feel are testing you. And to try to then understand what is your apprehension or your hesitation to that thing. This is when you really have to be honest with yourself, because we can really use our ego to talk our subconscious off a ledge by making excuses for the fears that we feel and minimizing them. We always talk about being, overcoming your fears, right? And not letting fear run the show. Well, let's pivot a little bit here and acknowledge the fear so that we can properly attend to the fear and thus start walking our soul's purpose, which is to come up against them, sometimes one right after the other. I speak from experience. And to knock them off the shelf, to make different actions in the face of them, to look at them in a different way, to start wrapping your brain around it in a different way is a great place to start. But ultimately, we have to change the course of our reaction to those fears. Then we are walking our purpose and we are doing what our soul came here to do. All the way back to the time frame of alchemy and dealing with, transmutation of energy. I mean, that, however you want to, weight that in terms of reality, that is essentially what we're doing as humans with a soul facing our challenges and our fears, is transmuting that into something that then builds up our confidence, as I had mentioned in the previous video, right? Think about how, just for a second, stop and realize how significant that is when you can turn something that kept you in a fear-based loop and turn that based on your new actions or your new thinking or your new approach or whatever, however you're gonna, change the course of that fear, running through your life. Think about how that shifting that now to something that builds your confidence and is now a solid foundation to build upon. How significant of a shift that is. That is transmutation. It's not like magic. It's not like, waving a wand or like, it's not wizardry. It's soul growth through facing our fears. It's a way to build up your foundational structure upon something that once was the means with which it was deteriorating on top of, right? Because the fears deteriorate our confidence. They lead us down paths that are not necessarily ideal, all in the name of helping us recognize those patterns that, again, may be going under a subconscious level. But you will see, I guarantee you, that once you start doing that, you will start to work with your internal structure, but you'll also see your external fears come to the surface. They will start to present themselves as little offshoots to almost test you, to see how well you're facing your innate internal fears. Because honestly, I found that once you do start taking care of those ones that eat at your solar plexus and eat at your insides, right? The ones that are hurting that foundation quite, actively, right? Because being afraid of spiders isn't going to actively hurt your foundation. You just might avoid spiders. But feeling unworthy and worrying about situations that are going to make you feel unworthy, that deteriorates your foundation. Well, the more you take care of that stuff, the less you're going to be afraid of that spider. The more that you're feeling confident in yourself because you faced, image issues and issues around you're taking care of your temple, the less you're going to be afraid of heights because you're going to feel more balanced on the edge of that cliff looking over. And you're not going to feel as timid and worried and uncertain because your confidence level is building, which was all in that last video. But fears are a good blueprint to understanding where to head, where we need work. So if you need to figure out what your soul purpose is, you need to look at your fears. You need to start looking at what are situations that are you're avoiding or you're, not coming out of feeling as strong as you would like to feel, right? It's sometimes hard to see because we avoid those situations to not feel the fear. But if that's the case, what are you avoiding? And then see what fear is driving that avoidance. There's always a way to outsmart the fear. Don't let the ego outsmart you in accepting the fear and then adjusting. We have to accept it's there, yes, but we have to handle it as part of our mission. Accepting it and saying, oh, we're just going to be afraid of that and let's avoid this and let's avoid that. That is the Band-Aid that doesn't heal. So mind your fears. Look at your fears. Let your fears not be something you avoid, but something that you welcome into the scope of your awareness to then help you figure out what you need to do. Because it's going to be everything. It's going to be everything that leads you to a more confident life, feeling better about yourself, feeling more accomplished in, your internal nature and who you are and how you walk every day, how you interact with people, how you talk to people, where you go and what you do. It's going to affect everything. Even to the point where you'll start to see spiders and go, I'm not afraid of those spiders anymore. Fear holds the answer. Fear may not be something that we want to run our lives, but it nonetheless has an important part in the course of our lives, and it can be remedied. It is the point of your soul's purpose here. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope to see you again here soon. Bye.